Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. It has been a hot minute since I've uploaded a video, but today I'm going to be sharing with you 25 books that I would like to read or knock off my TBR in 2025. So let's get right into it. Most of the books on this list are kind of books that I don't know much about and that I want to go blindly into. So this might be really fast paced. I'm probably just going to hold up the book, say, this is the book I want to read, and then move on. Because I really like the idea of going blind into books, like as blind as possible, not knowing, the premise or the tropes or the situations that fall throughout the book, but like knowing the character's name. That's all I want to know. So I have 25 books here. They're all genre ranging books. There's nonfiction, there's fiction, there's romance, there's fantasy, there's dystopian. So I feel like without further ado, let's get right into it. The first two books that I'm going to share are two nonfiction books that I have heard nothing but good things about. So the first one is 101 Essays That Will Change the Way You Think. I feel like this book is something that I can pick up when I need to read like some little advice chapter and not really have to sit down and read it, because I don't think that's how it's exactly meant to be read. So I feel like whenever I need to read something motivational or something that I need to relate to or something that could possibly be relatable, I can pick up this book. And this is by Brianna Wiest, who also wrote The Mountain Is You, which I also want to read, but that's not in this video. So moving on. The next one is a book that I have also heard nothing but good things about. Did I already say that? I might have already said that. But it is Everything I Know About Love by Dolly Alderton. This is the Indigo exclusive. I have the regular cover, but for now, this is the one that we'll have to do. This is a memoir about Dolly, and it just covers topics of love, sex, friendships, and other important things women or a person may experience in their 20s. So I'm really excited to read this, especially since I am 22. I am growing up, so I really think that this would be the most relatable book I could read in 2025. Diving into my fiction books, I have a few more. Some of them are kind of on the romantic side or the mythical side. First one I have is, obviously, I read one of this author's books this past year in 2024. I read Beach Read. So now I have People We Meet on Vacation as a book that I want to read in 2025. I feel like I've heard mixed reviews of Emily's books, but mostly positive. I feel like you have to go in with an open mind and not expect like a fully romantic plot. So that's why I put it in the fiction category, because I feel like these are more fiction based with like a subplot of romance, but I love the subplot of romance. So yeah, People We Meet on Vacation. This one is about Poppy and Alex. I think, are they friends that meet like once a year? I don't know, but it sounds really intriguing, and I've had this on my TBR for so long, so I'm really excited to dive into this one in 2025. The next two are both also by the same author. I've started this one, and that is Daisy Jones and the Six, but I have not finished it yet, and I don't know why, because I was super hooked and intrigued. I was like annotating as I went along. I don't know if you guys can even see that, but like there are some annotations in there, and I was loving it. I downloaded the audiobook, and I know the audiobook is how people read this book, because you get to hear every character's like interviews, because it is interview based. So I like that. You get to hear every character and their perspective throughout your reading and listening. So I'm really excited to read or like reread this book. I don't know if I want to start from the beginning again, or if I just want to dive into where I was before. This is definitely a top priority. I really want to finish this book, and I really want to watch the TV show. Also by Taylor Jenkins Reid, I have One True Loves. This one is also becoming a movie. So I really want to knock this one off my TBR. I think this is, besides Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, I think this is my second choice. Like, they're both tied for second Taylor Jenkins Reid reads after I read Daisy Jones. So I think I'm definitely going to pick this one up if I enjoy the rest of Daisy Jones and the Six. And that is One True Loves. The next book that I have is one that I have also had on my TBR for a very long time. And this one is more like in the realm of mythology, but it is fiction. And that is The Song of Achilles. This has been on my TBR and on my mind for so long. And I have heard nothing but good things about this book. So this is a book that I really want to give a chance to in 2025, because I feel like I won't know if I actually like it if I like don't read it. Like, I want to feel like all the emotions. I want to feel like I'm branching out into new like genres and topics. So I really want to pick this up. And this is like a top priority that I don't think I know the full story in the Greek mythology about these characters, but I wonder if I should stay completely blind or if I should research that before so I know going into this book. So let me know what you guys think if you've read this book. Next up, we have a thriller, which I haven't really dived into the thriller genre. I think I tried to a couple years ago, but I didn't finish the book. But I feel like now, after seeing a bunch of people talk about this author, I think I have a good grasp of who I'd like to reach for when I read thrillers. And that is Alice Feeney. So I have Sometimes I Lie on my 2025 TBR. I also want to read her Rock, Paper, Scissors book, but I don't know where that is right now. So I need to find it and then I will read that as well. I don't know much of the plot of this book. I just feel like, yes, I know that she's in the hospital, but I don't know anything else about this story. Maybe she lies, maybe she doesn't. Maybe she's lying about Sometimes She Lies. So this is a top priority on my like thriller TBR. Next book I have is a book that I also have started reading, but I stopped reading. I think it was just the pacing of I don't really know why I stopped reading this. I think I just slip in and out of reading very often, and I want to stop doing that because I feel like it'd be very beneficial for me to actually stick to my TBR and read all the books on my TBR. So this next one is Normal People by Sally Rooney. This has been, whoa, I have started reading this. I'm actually quite far into it. Like, I'm that far into it. So I think, like, look at how short it is. It's an easy read. I think the only hard part about this book is that there's no quotation marks. And I think that's just throughout all of her books. She like doesn't put quotation marks. So I'm really excited to get back into this. I also, along with Daisy Jones, I don't know if I want to restart this book from the beginning or just hop right back into where I was. But I think to understand and remember the story better, I think I'll have to refresh my memory by restarting the book. And I'm really excited to do so. I just don't know when I'm going to be picking this up. Next up is a YA fiction book. I think from what I've heard, I think I'd consider this a fiction YA book, teen book, and that is If He Had Been With Me. I honestly think I have been spoiled on this book. I think I know the ending, but I also don't know. I'm trying to forget that I know a major plot point in this book. So I think that's what's like carrying the idea of reading it away from me. I think it's just knowing something that is huge that goes on in this book. But I guess that happens when you don't read a popular book while it's popular. you like get all the thoughts that people are having, and you get the thoughts that the characters are having because other people are exposing them. Exposing. That's so deep. But you know what I mean. Like, seeing people talk about a book that you haven't read yet that's really popular and has a possibly emotional ending is kind of scary to even bother reading it. But I do have this as a top priority on my TBR. So I'm really excited to read this book. And to cry, okay? I'll read that book if I need to cry. Last fiction book we have, which is more also on the romantic side, I think, but I'm not quite sure, is from an author that really gained popularity this past summer, and that is Annabelle Monaghan's Nora Goes Off Script. I have heard great things about this author. Her books are quite short, if you can tell. So I feel like this would be a nice like palate cleanser during the summer, or maybe even throughout the year if I read like a super emotional book, like If He Had Been With Me, and like just need to gain more happiness in my life. I feel like this would be a good option. I also have her other two books, Sometime Next Summer and I think Summer Romance, right? Is that what her other book is called? I think those are her two books that I also have on my shelf. And I hear she's coming out with another book. So I'm really excited to dive into this author's backlist because I feel like she'd be just a great fiction romance author that I'd love. Now I'm going to jump into my fantasy TBR that I want to read in 2025. So without further ado, we'll start off with Caraval by Stephanie Garber. This has been on my brain for so long. I think when I was younger, my sister read this series, but then I saw it gaining more popularity as Once Upon a Broken Heart was coming out, because I know you should read this before you read that trilogy, but if you don't want to read that trilogy, I think it's all fine. And if you just want to stick with this one, I think it's fine. But I'm really excited to read this one. I think it's based around a carnival, right? A legendary competition, a mesmerizing romance, an unbreakable bond between two sisters. So yes, it's about a carnival competition and two sisters. I think one of the sisters goes missing, right? And then the other sister has to find her. And then along the way, there's romance, obviously. So that is a choice that I have on my TBR for 2025. I'm for sure starting this series. I would like to start this series. Next fantasy book is more on the dystopian side, but it's been on my TBR for a very long time, and that is Shatter Me by Tuhere Mafi. I hope I pronounced her name right. I feel like people are going to get mad at me. But this one, obviously, I've heard of everyone's number one book boyfriend in Aaron Warner, so I'm really excited to read this one. I know there's like strike-throughs in this book, which I think are very interesting to me. Like, are they her thoughts? Are they Juliet's thoughts? I'm not sure, but I'm really intrigued to start this series. I have all the books already because I couldn't contain myself when I was starting to collect this series. I just had to get all the books without even starting it. So that is Shatter Me. The next one that I have on my fantasy TBR is one that has been a favorite on TikTok and has been something that I've seen so much, and that is Powerless by Lauren Roberts. Yes, this is on my TBR. I have not read it yet, but I see quotes all the time on how like he describes her and how he feels, and I'm like, I need this book and I will eat it up when I do. So that is Powerless. I know this is like Hunger Games, Red Queen vibes. I think, are there trials? I don't even know. I don't know the main plot. All I know is that there is beautiful quotes in this book and I need to read it right now. ASAP. But when I'm in the mood for fantasy, I feel like I'm very iffy when it comes to fantasy, but I did read The Serpent and the Wings of Night in 2024, or like earlier in the year, and I really enjoyed it. I think the only thing that bugged me was the second book and how it started, and I just couldn't get into it. So I think Powerless is going to be great for me to get back into the fantasy genre because it's YA. I believe it is easy to read, and I'm really excited for the subplot of romance that is in this book. Next one that I have is also a cult favorite. This one has been on my TBR since the OG covers came out, and I had all of the OG books, but then I lost some of them, and then I found them again, but I'm missing one of them. But I do have the new covers, so that, if that's telling it all, you know that it is ACOTAR. This has been on my TBR for literal years. This has been on my TBR when ACOTAR was in the like YA section. What? Like when Sarah J Maas's books were in the YA section. That is how long I've known that this book has been in existence. And that is how long it's been on my TBR. I think when I was on vacation this year, I started listening to the dramatized audio and reading it on my Kindle, but I think I was just on chapter 1, and I think it was just to like try reading it. So I think I'm going to give it a bigger chance and restart and give it all the love it deserves, because I know that this series will become my entire personality whenever and if I ever read it. So that is A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J Maas. Second last fantasy book I have on my TBR has been one that has been on my mind since last year, and I never read it because the book wasn't in paperback, and then the paperback came out and I ordered it immediately. Like I pre-ordered it because I was like, now that it's in paperback, I need to read it. And it's a huge fantasy book that everyone has loved, and that is Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. This has been on my mind for so long, but now that I have it in my possession, it's like even more intriguing to me. Look at the sprayed edges on this book. Like, look at the dragons. That is so cool. I want to read this book so bad. I love the idea that they're at like a war dragon school and they have their own dragons that are like paired with them. And then there's like the bigger like fantasy elements that go into it. I'm really intrigued to start this book. I've heard great things about our main male character Xaden and the female main character Violet. I'm really excited to read this book. I'm very intrigued to read this book. I just don't know when I'm going to read it because I feel like ACOTAR, I feel like when I do read it, it's going to be my entire personality for however long. And since it is a bigger book, I feel like it's gonna, well, actually, it's only like a bit over 500 pages. I don't know how long it's going to take me to read this, but I hope that I give it its moment and take all my attention and put it into this book, because I feel like along with ACOTAR, I feel like these two books need as much attention from me as possible, but I feel like that can be hard for me, especially since I go in and out of reading a lot and I am working a lot. But now that I have a bit more free time since I'm done school, I feel like it would be better for me to read these books now. Last fantasy book that I have is also a cult classic, and it is a YA book, but I don't even think it'd be considered YA. I think this is a book that every reader, older or younger, can read, because I feel like it's just that classic, and I love, love, love the characters. I've watched all the movies, and that is Harry Potter. I read the first two books a while back. But started this one and didn't finish it, but I'm on chapter 11. I think I can just dive back into this, and since I know the plot from the movie, I feel like I can just fly through this and then finish the series as well, because I really, really, really want to read this book series in my lifetime. Like, this is a series that is classic and so easy and fun, and there's so many characters that are amazing that I'd love to give a chance, and that I think it's really worth the read. Like, I've adored these characters for so long, so like not giving them the chance to read their books would be horrible of me. So I'm really, really excited to dive back into Harry Potter, because I love the cozy vibes it gives, the magic, and every character in the story I love so much. So I feel like this is a book that I could read in the middle of winter, like maybe in January or in February. Maybe I could finish this book and enjoy it as much as I do the film, because I love The Prisoner of Azkaban. I love Sirius. I love Remus. I love all of these characters that are in this book and this story. So I'd love to give it a chance soon. I honestly don't know what number of book we're on now, but we are into the romance section of the books that are on my TBR for 2025. This stack is very intriguing to me, because there is dark romance, there's sports romance, there's emotional romance, there's more fiction romance, but like they're in the romance section. There's diverse romance in this stack. So I watched this movie and I loved it. And let's start off this romance section with Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston. This has been also on my TBR for so long. I feel like this is in one of the videos that I posted a long time ago, like 3 years ago. I think I've mentioned this book. And I just feel like this can be, well, you know what? In some romance books, there's like a little inkling of a mention that a character is of diverse background or comes from a different place. But I feel like this book like shows you the relationship. There's diversity there. There's like the status is different. But I feel like this would be a greater book for me to get into more same-sex relationships, because I feel like this would be so fun to read, so quick to read, so beautiful to read. I'm really excited and intrigued to start Red, White, and Royal Blue. Honestly, I don't know when. Like, I don't know if I'd have to be in the mood for this book, but I loved the movie. So if that's any sign that I'll like the book, then I will read this book soon, because I love the movie. Next book is, again, a cult classic or a cult favorite and has a huge following. So I'm really scared to get into this book series, but I'm also really excited, because I don't know how people are going to feel if I share that I don't like it, or if I love it, will people like me for liking it? Or if I don't like it, will people still like me? Because these books, well, this book in particular is pretty hefty and is beautifully character-based and develops the characters so well. And that is Binding 13 by Chloe Walsh. This honestly has been on my TBR since I saw so many people mention it, maybe 2 years ago. But the thing that scares me is the literal font size. The font size is tiny and the books are bricks. I have, which books? I have all 5 of the books that are out so far. This has been a book that I've been really excited to read, because it's emotional, it's like fun, it's like about a friend group. So I love that idea, because I've read the first 3 books in the Addicted series, and I've loved that it's character based and that there is a found family element. So I feel like since I loved the first few books of the Addicted series, I'm going to love this series. But I am scared for like the trigger warnings. I just hope that, you know, I feel comfortable reading it. So I'm really excited to give this a shot in 2025. Next up is a sports romance that I've also had on my shelf for a couple years now, maybe a year, I don't know. And it is a football romance. And I think it deals with the amnesia trope. I don't know if that's a spoiler or not, but I know that from like other people talking about it, I think. And that is Say You Swear by Megan Brandy. I remember starting to hear rumblings of this book and eating up what people were saying about it and loving it. So I'm really, really excited to see how this goes. I think, is it also like a love triangle? I don't know. Does it say on the back? I don't know. I think it's a love triangle, but I'm not sure. I could be wrong. I may have to look into that. But Say You Swear is a sports romance that I'm really excited to read. Kind of scared because of the idea of what the story is about, but nonetheless, very excited to read this book. Next, we have a dark romance that is a mafia romance. And this has also been a book that's been on my TBR for a long time. And that is The Predator by Runix, the first book in the Darkverse series. This is a mafia romance. I think the first two or the first three about this couple. I'm not sure. But I don't know anything about this book. All I know is that he's in the mafia. Is she in a rival mafia? Like, I don't know. Nonetheless, I'm really excited to read this book. This has been on my TBR for a very long time. And I'm quite nervous to get into a dark romance. The only dark romance that I've read are Still Beating by Jennifer Hartman and the Redwood Kings. Is it Redwood Kings series by Nelia Alarcon? I loved those books. I actually ate those books up. So I feel like giving this a chance to step into something darker. Oh no, I've also read There Are No Saints by Sophie Lark, and I love those books. So I feel like since that is kind of darker as well, I feel like I'll like this book. So I will let you know what I think of this book and if I continue the series. Because I have the other two first books. I have The Reaper and The Emperor. I think I have those two. On a lighter note now, we have Archer's Voice, which has also been... All of these books, I feel like I'm going to keep saying, have been on my TBR for a really long time. But this one has been on my TBR for like a long time, for like 4 years. And I haven't read it yet. I know it's emotional. I know it's small town. I know the relationship between these two characters is absolutely beautiful. But I don't know why I haven't read it yet. Like, I've always had that urge to read it, but I never did it. And I don't know why. But I just know that this is a beautiful story about two different people. And, like, I feel like it's just going to be amazing. So I feel like I need to be in the right headspace for an emotionally beautiful, intriguing book like this one. Diving into some books that have kind of also had the same, like, I've had the same urge to read these books like Archer's Voice, but I never did. So the first one is The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston. Ashley Poston. And this one is about a girl who, doesn't she go back in time to like the same apartment 7 years in the past and meet someone? I don't know. I don't really know the premise, but this is a book that's been on my TBR since the summer. And I've always had the urge to pick it up, but then I don't. I like put it back down. So I don't know if I'm ready to read it yet, because I don't know if I'm like ready to like love it so much. So this is a top priority in 2025 for me to read and knock off my TBR. I haven't read anything by this author yet, so I don't know if I have to go back and read her first few books. But this book that I really want to read is Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez. I have I think I have most of her other books. I think all I'm missing is Life's Too Short, but I have everything else on her backlist. But this one took the world by storm when it came out, and I saw everyone loving it and raving about it because there's like a romantic piece to it, there's an emotional piece to it, there's like so much in this book that I feel like I would love if I just gave a chance to it. So what does it say? It says 4 dates, a kiss, and a breakup. That's all it will take to find their soulmate. So is this the book where they date each other to break their like relationship curses, but then they end up falling in love? Yes. When it comes to love, Emma is cursed. Every guy she dates finds his true love after they break up. But it turns out she's not the only one afflicted with this condition. That right there, intrigued, want to read right away. So I don't know when I'm going to pick this up. I feel like I can read this at any point, but in the title it says just for the summer. So I don't know if I should read it only in the summer or just knock it off my TBR right away in the new year. Okay. This one, I've been reading her books this past year. I'm almost done her first series. So I'm really excited to get into this series because I've heard nothing but good things about these books. And in reference to my sweater, it is another book by Elsie Silver, and that is Wild Love. I've had this book on my TBR since it came out. I'm currently in the middle of reading, oh my gosh, I always forget her title. I'm reading The Frontrunner right now. So I'm back in her first series. I read Chestnut Spring series at the beginning of the year, and then I slowly am reading and finishing her first series. Absolutely loving it. So I want to finish that series as soon as possible so I can dive into these books and then be ready for the third book that's coming out. But all I know is that this book is about a single dad, brother's best friend. I don't know. But if he's anything like Kate Eaton, I will eat this book up. So I'm really excited to dive into the Rose Hill series by Elsie Silver because she just knows how to write a small town romance. That's what I've learned throughout reading her books. She just knows how to write those men, knows how to write those romances, knows how to write a single dad, okay? So good. And I'm really excited. The final book we have on this TBR is a book that I've heard also for a very long time. And it kind of gives off normal people vibes, but I think it's more on the romantic side. And that is A Love Letter to Whiskey by Candy Steiner. This has been on my TBR for a long time. All I know is that it kind of gives off the normal people vibes, like I said, but I don't know what it's really about. And am very nervous to read this book because I feel like it's going to be emotional. It's going to be angsty, it's gonna be romantic, but I don't know what happens in this book. So I'm trying to stay as blind as possible with this book. So yeah, this is a top priority for me, and look at how thick it is. Like, that is a monster. But I'm really excited to read this book. I've heard nothing but good things about it. I want to stay as blind as possible when I read this book, so I'm really excited to give this a chance. I hope that I can knock this off the TBR for 2025 because I've heard nothing but good things. All right, everyone, that wraps up my 25 books in 2025. I hope you enjoyed seeing what books that I have had on my TBR for a very long time that I want to possibly knock off in 2025. I'm not really stressing about if I read these or not, but they're just on my TBR as like suggestions of what I can pick up and finish in 2025 because these books have been with me for a very long time and I'd like to finish them, but I'm not stressing about like these are the only books that I can read. I feel like these are just suggestions for if I'm like in a slump, I'll pick up this book. If I'm in a fantasy mood, these are some books that I can pick up. If I'm looking for a nonfiction, if I need motivation, if I need a pick-me-up, these are some books that I can pick up. So I hope you enjoyed and stick around for more videos coming from me. I hope in the future that I will stick to this and be consistent, because I do like the idea of making book videos. It's just a matter of when I film them and what I have to talk about. So if you want to follow me on my social media, they are linked below. I have a book account on Instagram. I have a TikTok. I have a regular Instagram. And they will be linked down below, as always. See you later. Bye.